Every serial killer has neighbors, and when the cameras arrive, the neighbors always say the same sentence. He seemed so normal. Not sometimes, almost every time. Which raises a question nobody really wants the answer to. If they seem normal and live normal and smile normal, how does a human being actually become one? Let's take this seriously, because the real answer is stranger than the myth. Start with 4 men. One was the president of his church congregation and a Cub Scout leader. One was a Democratic precinct captain who got photographed with the First Lady of the United States. One worked the night shift at a chocolate factory. One volunteered on a suicide crisis hotline. Colleagues said he was calm, empathetic, genuinely good at talking people back from the edge. Dennis Rader, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy. Between them, over 60 victims. Not one of them looked like the monster from the movies. That's the first myth gone in the first minute. So, are they born or are they made? In 2005, a neuroscientist named James Fallon was studying brain scans of psychopathic killers, looking for patterns. Reduced activity in the areas that handle empathy and impulse control. One day, buried in a stack of family scans he was using as controls, he found a brain that matched the killer pattern perfectly. It was his own. Fallon had the brain. He had, by his own account, some of the genes. And he became a successful scientist with a family. His conclusion, and it's a theory, but a compelling one, was that biology loads the dice, but it doesn't roll them. Because here's what biology alone can't explain. Ed Kemper's mother locked him in the basement as a boy and told him no woman could ever love him. John Wayne Gacy's father beat him and called him a failure. Childhood abuse shows up again and again in these files. The FBI found broadly troubled family histories in most of the killers they studied. Case closed? Not even close. Flip the numbers around. Millions of people survive far worse childhoods and never hurt anyone at all. Abuse is common. Serial murder is vanishingly rare. If trauma were the recipe, the world would be unrecognizable. And then Ted Bundy walks in and breaks the pattern from the other side. A childhood with real strangeness in it. Raised for years believing his mother was his sister, but nothing like the horror stories. Researchers have gone through his early life looking for the moment it went wrong, and mostly found a kid people described as fairly ordinary. Which is the uncomfortable rule hiding under all of this. Some had terrible childhoods, some didn't. The formula keeps refusing to be a formula. Fine, if we can't predict them from the past, can we spot them in the present? You've probably heard of the warning sign checklist. Bedwetting, fire setting, cruelty to animals. The triad. It's in every crime show. Here's what the shows don't mention. When researchers actually tested it, the triad failed. Most kids who tick those boxes never become violent, and plenty of killers never tick them at all. The most famous checklist in true crime is, statistically, closer to folklore than science. The myths keep falling. The evil genius? The average IQ in serial killer databases sits around 94, dead average, slightly below. The twitchy loner? Bundy worked in politics and was praised in a governor's thank you letter. Rader had a wife, 2 kids, a degree, and a job enforcing local bylaws. A man whose entire career was telling other people to follow the rules. If your mental image of a serial killer is someone you'd cross the street to avoid, you have it exactly backwards. That image protects them. In the late 1970s, the FBI decided to stop guessing. 2 agents from the Behavioral Science Unit, Robert Ressler, who popularized the very term serial killer, and John Douglas, started walking into prisons and interviewing them. 36 convicted killers face to face. Out of those conversations came criminal profiling, the idea that the crime scene reflects the mind that made it. It was revolutionary. It was also, and the FBI itself admits this, an art wearing a lab coat. When BTK terrorized Wichita, profiles circulated for years. Rader, meanwhile, was collecting a paycheck, raising kids, and leading his congregation. The profile didn't catch him. His own floppy disk did. In 2005, he sent police a disk, and its deleted metadata pointed to his church and his name. 31 years of hunting ended by a file properties window. Which brings us to the question that actually keeps psychologists up at night. How do they live like that? How does a man murder on Saturday and teach Cub Scouts on Sunday? The clinical word is compartmentalization, an ability to wall off one life from another so completely that both feel real. Combine that with the traits on Robert Hare's psychopathy checklist: surface charm, absence of guilt, shallow emotion, and you get something far scarier than a monster. You get a mask that never slips, worn by someone who may not even feel it's a mask. And the people around them? Kemper spent evenings at a bar called the Jury Room, drinking with off-duty police officers who liked him. When he finally confessed by phone, reportedly, the officers thought it was a joke. Co-workers described Dahmer as quiet and polite. Gacy threw neighborhood barbecues and performed at children's events as a clown he invented himself. After every arrest, the same stunned interviews, the same sentence. He seemed so normal. At some point, you have to accept the terrifying possibility that they weren't all hiding it brilliantly. Some of them simply were that person too. Were there ever warning signs? Sometimes. And this is the part that hurts. Dahmer's drinking problem was visible in high school. Adults noticed and moved on. Kemper is the most haunting case in the entire file. He told the system exactly what he was. He killed his grandparents at 15, was institutionalized, then released at 21 over objections. In 1972, 2 psychiatrists examined him and declared him no threat to society. Reportedly, while evidence of his latest victim sat in the car he drove to the appointment. The signs weren't missed because they were invisible. They were missed because nobody could believe them. So, how does someone become a serial killer? Here's the honest answer, and it's the one experts actually give. There are ingredients: biology that blunts empathy, childhood soaked in violence, fantasy that curdles into rehearsal, that eerie talent for living 2 lives. But there is no recipe. Every combination that produced a killer has also, in millions of other people, produced nobody at all. Take the same genes, the same trauma, the same brain scan, and you usually get an ordinary neighbor, occasionally a neuroscientist. And that is precisely why they're so hard to catch before the worst happens. We're not scanning crowds for monsters. We're scanning crowds for people, indistinguishable, employed, married, polite, where the only reliable evidence is the thing they've already done. The FBI estimates serial killers account for a fraction of all murders, yet they haunt us more than any other crime. Maybe because of this exact fact. There was never a formula. There was never a mark on the forehead. There was just the guy next door, waving from his lawn. And the neighbors always say the same sentence: case closed.